From the game day experience to the fundraising, what can we expect from new athletic director J Batt? But first, guys, Michigan State. Yep, that's right. They flipped a kid from Iowa State. Let's go.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning into Locked On Spartans. It's your team in green and white right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And shout out to everyone that is an everyday listener. Please rate, review, subscribe, comment below what's got you the most fired up about J Batt being the new athletic director here at Michigan State, because we're going to get to that. We have a great beat reporter for Georgia Tech from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Chad Bishop. He joins us in segments 2 and 3 to talk all things about our new athletic director here. But first, guys, that's right, it's recruiting season here at Michigan State. And for the second day in a row, our Spartans got a defensive commit for the 2026 football recruiting class. So it was Braylon Hodge yesterday, linebacker out of Colorado, and today, Brayden Thomas. There's a lot of smoke around, hey, this kid is visiting over the weekend. He's an Iowa State commit right now. And we talked with Greg Smith of Rivals at the end of last week. We said, who are we on commit watch for? Well, this is exactly who he was talking about. Brayden Thomas, he makes it official on this blessed Monday. The 6-foot, 180-pound safety, he flips from the Cyclones to Michigan State. Now, again, guys, he was committed to Iowa State since early February, but hey, you know what? Once you visit East Lansing, tough to turn down these greener pastures. Now, 3-star safety out of St. Edwards in Ohio, so quick shout out to the Dowell family. I know that they were a big family down at St. Edwards, but more about Brayden Thomas here, guys. He's the number 71 ranked safety according to 24/7 Sports, and the number 32 overall kid in the football-rich state of Ohio. Now, per Spartans Illustrated of the Rivals Network, they have him starting off as strong safety when he does come onto campus in 2026, but they also mentioned, hey, this kid is pretty versatile in the backfield. He could play free safety. He could play a little bit of nickel, and we've seen that too with Michigan State's portal strategy as well, right? Getting Tracy Revels, a guy that could play a little bit of box, a little bit of free, a little bit of slot safety if you need him to. So this is the kind of player that really fits the Michigan State mold. A guy that could do a little bit of everything in the backfield, and hey, we'll just figure out the rest when you come onto campus. So, like I said, guys, Brayden Thomas, the second defensive commit in a row, and those kids are the only 2 defensive commits in this class right now. That is now up to 6 kids, ranked number 51 overall in the nation, so still plenty of work to be done to rise up those team rankings as far as the recruiting world goes. But hey, not a bad weekend for Michigan State. Now, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, too. It's not just weekends anymore that are big at Michigan State in the month of June. No, it's weekdays now, because there are some big visitors on campus right now as you are listening to this, assuming you're listening on a Monday or a Tuesday. But, yeah, guys, there are 2 4-stars I just want to talk about right now that would be some massive, massive needle movers for Michigan State should they get them. And we're going to start right now with Carter Gooden. 6'4", 260-pound defensive end. And there's some say that, he could bulk up a little more in college, play interior defensive line, be more of this versatile frontline player. But all things considered, Michigan State would probably have him play at the defensive end. Hopefully this is a problem that Michigan State can figure out later, because this kid, he's talented, right? Like, he's not just a 4-star. Oh, no. 24/7 Sports, they have him ranked number 69 in the class, so squarely inside the top 100, definitely on the higher echelon of these 4-star kids. Now, of course, when a kid's rated that high, it's never going to be that easy of a recruiting battle here, even though Michigan State was one of the first schools to identify him and offer him way back last Halloween. He was Michigan State was this kid's 3rd Power 4 offer, and yeah, obviously, he's still considering Michigan State, but plenty of work to be done here. He visited Rutgers last weekend. He's already visited Arizona State. He visited UCLA in the month of May. Like we said, He's on Michigan State's campus right now, but he's still got 4 more visits locked in after this one. We're talking Virginia, we're talking Syracuse, we're talking UNC, and we are talking Boston College here, guys. So, yeah, that's going to be let's see if I can do some quick math here. What about that's 8 official visits that this young man will have taken between the months of May and into late June. That is using your time to the fullest right there, Mr. Gooden. So good on you. So, look, what kind of a statement would this be for Michigan State should they get the commitment of Carter Gooden? Oh, man, outside of getting like a really good player, that's the obvious one. But this would be a real good statement win here for Michigan State on the recruiting trail. A recruiting trail that hasn't seen a lot of big wins. We've been very vocal about that on this show, is that I don't know how this class gets into the top 30 with the lack of 4-star visitors that you're having on campus. And by the way, those kids aren't even guaranteed to commit here. So if you get Carter Gooden, hey, that's going to ring loud on the recruiting trails, right? And not just because you get this 4-star kid, but who else you have beaten out. This kid grew up in Canada, now lives in Massachusetts. Let's just go down the list of official visits one more time, because there is a common thread here once you push out Arizona State and UCLA. It's Rutgers, Virginia, Syracuse, North Carolina, Boston College. Those are all teams that are on the East Coast. That would be impressive, not just to get the kid, but to branch out outside of your region and nab him from a lot of programs that have also been in on him early, like Michigan State was, but also picking them out of their own backyards here. So this is something that Justin Thinn mentioned in his piece on 24/7 Sports that I also want to repeat too. But like we said, this kid's a top 70 recruit. This would be the highest rated recruit since Devontae Dobbs in 2019. So it's not just all that, but who you stack him with. We said that he's a defensive end. Can you play a little bit of interior? Yeah, perhaps one day, but this would be an impressive stacking of classes here. And that's not to say Michigan State got, any highly rated defensive ends in last year's class. Actually, if you look at it, there's not really a defensive end in that class, but who they did get, highly rated 4-star kid out of Frankenmuth, Derek Simmons. You pair Derek Simmons, 2025 kid, next to Carter Gooden, 2026. Hey, we know how important trenches are in the sport of football here in East Lansing. I would say that'd be an okay back-to-back pickups here on the defensive line here. So it'd plug a massive hole. Guys, we've talked about it all offseason. We talked about it during the season last year. But yeah, we learned last year how important the position of defensive end can be in college football. If you didn't know it going into last year, going 6 or 7 games, however long it was without a sack, yeah, that's probably a pretty good lesson here. So this is a big prospect at a big position of need here, and let's see if they could just shut the door on this one. Now, what's nice about this, not the only 4-star guy on the defensive line visiting campus right now. We also got Tyson, Harley, 6'4", 215-pound edge rusher from Washington, D.C. He's a top 400 player guy, so not in the top 100, but certainly no one you're going to say no to. This would be a pretty big win here for Michigan State. Now, just like Gooden, Tyson Harley actually visited Rutgers last weekend. He was on campus the same time as Gooden was. Now, he will visit Penn State, so that's going to be a tough battle right there in its own right. And then also Maryland, who they always have these random amazing pickups on the recruiting trail. So, that could be a battle that, no one sees coming. And also Virginia Tech. So similar to Gooden, this would be Michigan State branching out of their own region and taking a really strong commit out of someone else's backyard. So that would also be a statement that would ring loud. So guys, if you listen to the show every day, we've had this conversation. The long-term outlook of the 2026 class, starting to get a little concerned, like I alluded to earlier, that will this class even finish in the top 30 because, they don't have a lot of 4-star visitors on campus. Eddie Whiting was one last weekend. Okay, he's already committed to the class. Carter Gooden's one, and then, yes, Tyson Harley. But after that, not a ton. So this is the biggest week stretch here for Michigan State recruiting in the month of June. Can other 4-stars be added later on in the month? Yes, obviously, even Tyson Harley, this was a pretty late addition to the schedule. So there are instances where that happens. But you got to turn these visits into commits. If you can get 1 or dare I say both of these kids, that would change the tune of how the 2026 class is filling out so far right now. All right, guys, just like we said earlier, Chad Bishop of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, he's going to talk with us, talk everything he knows about J Batt and his time at Georgia Tech. Really great conversation with our guy, Chad Bishop. But first, need to talk everyone's ears off about Monarch Money. Now, guys, ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Well, between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it is easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Now, Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it is a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one convenient place, so you stop just managing your money and start building that wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery, and now I'm budgeting smarter, saving a lot more. It's all good in the hood over here with Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege on monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege, again, for half off your first year at monarchmoney.com. Folks, fired up for this one. We are going down south to the world of Southern hospitality because Chad Bishop of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, yeah, he does some work over there at Georgia Tech, and he is going to be generous enough with his time to give us all the intel on J Batt, Michigan State's new athletic director. And Chad, this is the sick part about college sports, is that one fan base's pain is always another one's pleasure, and we've had our share of pain in the last few years. But for once, we're going to be the beneficiaries of another one's displeasure. Is that the right vibe? Are Georgia Tech fans not too thrilled about what's going on right now?
Yeah, it's yes. I mean, I don't think Georgia Tech fans are laughing maniacally, like, haha, good luck with that guy, right? Like,
sure.
J Batt did a lot for Georgia Tech when he took over in 2022, which was before I started covering the program. But
okay.
Georgia Tech was not in a great spot when it came to the athletic department, going through a little bit of turmoil and trying to find their way a little bit. And J Batt came in and retained Brent Key as the interim football coach, and the football program's in good standing. He hired Damon Stoudemire. Yep. But more than anything, I mean, he's been an innovator in terms of raising funds, building some new facilities, being at the forefront of some of this NIL and revenue sharing stuff, being really out front about it and what Georgia Tech needs to do to be competitive in this new landscape. He's embraced it. I think one of his phrases has always been, we're going to embrace the change that's coming. We're not going to shy away from it. And that was really his biggest thing, really thinking outside of the box in terms of how to raise funds and get some more money for the athletic department, which everybody knows at the end of the day, you got to have the change to make some moves and to win some games. And J Batt was really, really good at doing that. So I think Georgia Tech fans, yeah, they're certainly a little upset to see J Batt go, but they're probably more worried to see who Georgia Tech gets next to keep that train rolling, to make sure they don't mess up that next hire.
Any bit of a surprise here for Georgia Tech fans? Because, there are the rumors that come out after that. Oh, he did have some interest in the Maryland athletic director job, maybe the South Carolina job recently that opened. Was there any smoke to that? Is this much of a shock, or is this always something that, yeah, he was kind of maybe looking around at not just ACC jobs, but SEC or Big Ten this whole time?
I'd say yes and no. I think there was no surprise that J Batt would leave one day. And like you said, his name was connected to Maryland, which I don't think there was any smoke to that, but South Carolina a little bit and Missouri a little bit.
Okay.
So I think any realistic Georgia Tech fan knew that this guy's in his mid-40s. He's a rising star. His name's already been out there a few times. Like, yeah, there's a good chance he's going to leave one day. And he really doesn't have any connections to, Atlanta or Georgia Tech. He's a Charlottesville native, played soccer in North Carolina. So he's a Southern boy, but it's not like he went to Georgia Tech or had family that went to Georgia Tech or anything like that. So that's number one. I think what was surprising a little bit is to make the move to a Big Ten school in Michigan State. Like I said, being a Southern guy, maybe he goes back to his alma mater at UNC. Maybe he goes to his hometown of Charlottesville or to Virginia. Maybe he goes to an SEC team or school looking for an athletic director. So to jump to the Big Ten, I think was a bit of a surprise. But I think what's been written about, and I agree with, he probably understands the writing on the wall here, right? That the Big Ten and the SEC are at the forefront of this new college football playoff and at a lot of the television revenue. And his resources will probably be a little bit better at Michigan State. And maybe he could win at a little bit of a higher level. He was already starting to put some wins together at Georgia Tech, but maybe things will be not necessarily easier, but maybe the resources will be a little bit more accessible at a place like Michigan State in the Big Ten. So I think that was the surprising part, to leave from Georgia Tech to Michigan State, but not necessarily to leave.
And not to throw shade on the last athletic director here, Alan Haller, who by all accounts, great guy and everything, but it was said as much by our president here at Michigan State that we need someone that could drive up some funds here. And, depending on who you talk to, Alan Haller, maybe a little introverted, wasn't, the greatest face-to-face with donors sometimes. But what's the personality of J Batt like? Have you talked to him a lot? Is he extroverted? Like, is this just no question how he's able to drive so many funds?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't say Jay is extroverted when it comes to being a public face of a program. Like, he's not going to do a ton of television interviews. He's not going to be out there in front of the media, but he is going to make a ton of friends and a ton of relationships to drive, like you said, those funds. I mean, he was just on a podcast with Bloomberg where, Alex Rodriguez is a co-host and talked a lot about how important relationships are. And you can't just call people up, cold call folks and say, hey, give me some money, right? Like, you got to develop relationships and really develop friendships. And clearly he was doing a great job at that, because they had some record-setting numbers in terms of fundraising, building some new facilities, especially when it comes to the football stadium and basketball. And then, like I said earlier, just thought outside the box. For example, moving the Georgia Tech football rivalry to Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, which is going to give Georgia Tech $10 million. A pregame festivity called Hell of a Block Party, where they have pre-concerts and block off the streets and try to create a little bit better of an atmosphere to get people engaged and develop those more relationships. So there's no doubt that's his MO, is going to be, driving funds and building relationships and getting some money to funnel into the Michigan State department. I wouldn't expect him to be out there, like some ADs at the forefront of a camera and constantly be on radio shows and talking publicly. But he's behind the scenes, is going to work his tail off to get Michigan State some more money.
So the email I sent this morning to his assistant, wondering if he'll join this show. Maybe don't hold out hope for that. Is that what you're telling me here? Okay.
Not right now, but give it some time.
Is he busy this week too, you think? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe wait till after maybe the start of football season or something like that.
Yeah, we'll circle back in due time.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm glad you mentioned that podcast on Bloomberg. It called The Deal with Alex Rodriguez. They had the other co-host, which, of course, I forgot to write the name down in my notes here. But listening to that this morning, I mean, it seems to be like all over the nation, and this isn't, every single athletic director is like this, but there are some that seem a little apprehensive with the new era of college sports, that see it as more of a burden or a hassle, whereas it really seemed like J Batt was willing to embrace this. Dare I say it, happy it's happening because it's going to bring more structure? Is that the total read that you get with him during his time?
Yeah, definitely. He was on a committee, with a bunch of other athletic directors to sort of talk about how this is all going to be structured. All these schools are getting all this money, but how are they going to distribute it and what that's going to look like? Because everybody wants structure and some sort of guardrails and guidelines on how to do this. And he, upped on that committee, bring me in. I want to talk about it. I want to figure it out. Another point is he hired a guy by the name of J Kosh to sort of be like a general manager, to work with agents now and sort of figure out how to distribute this money. If football team is getting, 15 million or 13 million, who's getting all that money? The quarterback gets this, the running back gets this, the lineman gets that, sort of that stuff, right? Not waiting and see how are we going to do this? No, I mean, he's going straight forward and no, we got to get out in front of this so Georgia Tech can be at the forefront and figure it out before most athletic departments do. So, yeah, he totally embraces it because, this is how it is, right? This is our new reality. And J Batt didn't wait back and be reactive. He was definitely proactive when it came to the new age of college athletics.
Maybe this is a question I should have started with. It's such a broad question, but what has impressed you the most about him? Because, the fundraising thing is obviously well storied. He launched a $500 million drive that so far has raised $300 million in just his short time since launching that. The field naming rights was a big thing for you guys with Hyundai as well. I also read too that 14 of the 17 sports moved on to the postseason this year. So it's not just fundraising, but on-field success. You mentioned some great coaching hires. So if you could just pin just one thing that you think has just really impressed everyone at Georgia Tech, what would you go with?
He's competitive, man. I think a lot of folks, the narrative is going to be the fundraising and the money part of it, and that's huge. But like I mentioned, I mean, the guy played college soccer. He's a competitor. He's an outdoorsman. I tell the story of the Georgia Tech football game this past year that went 8 overtimes. I mean, I was on the sideline for the end of that, and J Batt was on the sideline with me, and he was hanging on every snap, man, and he was devastated when they lost that game. And I've seen him pound his fist on the scorer's table at basketball games, upset at calls. Like he wants to win too. Like I think he understands, like, yeah, we got this money part, we got to do this fundraising and build facilities and all that thing, but he also wants to win, man. I mean, the guy, again, a former athlete, competitor. Obviously a lot of ADs want to win, right? But like you can see it when he's down there on the sidelines with the coaches pumping his fist, or if he had a headset, he'd throw it. I mean, he's a competitive dude.
This is good. That's going to justify a lot of my actions when I'm watching games. Like, yes, honey, I can yell at the television.
Like I saw the AD. That'd be your excuse. Right. I saw the AD, kick the bench, so I'm going to do that.
Yeah, okay, that's good. We're on the same page here. Okay, well, this is going to change just my whole livelihood at home during these games. This is very, very exciting information to find out.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the misses on that one.
She'll understand. She's very, very understanding. Maybe we'll see. I do want to circle back to that naming right deal, though. So Hyundai is who you guys partnered with, and it didn't change the entire name. It's still Bobby Dodd Stadium at Hyundai Field, and it was a $55 million deal over the course of 20 years. And of course, any way you can generate revenue in college sports these days, you got to go ahead and do it. So not saying it's inevitable here to happen in East Lansing at Spartan Stadium, but what was the perception like? Like, how was that received by the fan bases there? Because anytime you touch anything with names, like, that's going to stir the pot here a little bit. But understood?
Yeah, certainly mixed reaction, right? And like we talked about before, like thinking outside the box, how can you drum up some revenue? Grant Field is still in the name of Bobby Dodd Stadium. Now, a lot of people don't refer to that anymore. It's especially in all the press releases and news releases you see from Georgia Tech, it's going to be Bobby Dodd Stadium at Hyundai Field. And but again, the huge amount of revenue that brought in to name part of the stadium that was massive. Of course, the old school fans, and rightly so, like, what are you doing to our stadium? Yeah. But I think the realistic new age fans, like, okay, look how much money that's going to bring in. Like, that's good. And we need to pay some of these athletes, and we need to retain our good coaches with high salaries. And here's a way to do it. So will it be, local shopping center stadium in the future? I don't know, up there in East Lansing, but there's a good chance that maybe the End Zone Club will have a new name, or maybe the tailgating section will have anything that can get donors invested and people's names on things. J Batt will be looking into it, that's for sure.
I just want to know how much you know about the move that you referenced earlier when this game was moved from Georgia Tech to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and then Georgia Tech pocketed $10 million because of that move. Because Michigan State, not too long ago, they had a game moved to Ford Field. They played Penn State. They barely lost by about 40 points. Neither here nor there. They didn't get any money for that, though. Yeah, just small details. But they didn't get any money for that. So, like, how much of a driving force was J Batt, or was that kind of something that fell into the lap of Georgia Tech? Or do you just not know? Am I leaving you out?
No. Georgia Tech has an agreement with Mercedes-Benz Stadium to play one game there a year, I believe, through 2026.
Okay.
So the Georgia game will be this year, and then next game there's a strong possibility it could be like Tennessee, who they signed a home and home with, or Colorado, who comes to Atlanta next year as part of the 26 Georgia Tech season. So that, I mean, they already had to play a game there in 25 anyway. And, it was a little shocking at first. What do you mean you're moving the Georgia game off campus? But then you started to peel back and say, well, this is why, and this is how much money is going to happen. And, I brought up that Tennessee series that Georgia Tech just announced. That's another thing Michigan State fans should be excited about, like some possible big-time non-conference games for the Spartans. Like, I think J Batt is very interested in scheduling aggressively. He was at Georgia Tech, so I don't think there'd be any difference when it comes to East Lansing about getting some big time non-conference games to drive television ratings, to drive television revenue, to get people more interested and engaged in the program. I think that could be an aspect of this move as well.
And that's the other thing I kept reading too, is just like, hey, he's improved the game day experience. So that could kind of be like a catch-all phrase that's used for literally anything. I know you've mentioned the concerts, which fun, like that's great. But like anything else eye-popping or anything else really innovative that you hadn't really heard about that he introduced to Georgia Tech?
Yeah, not necessarily. I mean, there's some stadium renovations going on. I think a lot of those are just, redoing some suites and redoing some chair backs and, part of their end zone building reconstruction that they're doing, I believe, involves a speakeasy club and a rooftop.
Excellent.
Sip a few cocktails during the game, just a few, of course. Just like little things like that. Again, I think any modern day athletic director understands that, yes, the majority of the people are there to watch the football game, but there's an audience for the folks who want to bring their family or who want to entertain clients, or maybe Michigan State wants to entertain some business folks who may be interested in donating to Michigan State athletics and, hey, check out this new club over here or this venue or this part of the stadium. So little things like that, are key nowadays. And again, J Batt and Georgia Tech looked into a lot of that and have made some big time changes to the football stadium.
We've been hearing more and more complaints about Spartan Stadium and just, hey, they need renovations. And I think this all boils down to, okay, it's because we haven't won in a few years and fans are starting to get really upset and really antsy. And I'm one of these people, of course. Like, I like to nitpick at everything. But you guys get the same complaints down there, too? Like, our stadium isn't fancy enough?
No, not necessarily, because it's such a historic venue. I don't know if I'll get this wording right, but it's like the oldest college football stadium in the country, like that's continually been played on, since over 100 years. So, wow. And as highbrow as many Georgia Tech fans are, I don't think they're looking for one of these new age stadiums like Las Vegas built or Nashville's building, right? Like they're pretty, I don't want to say comfortable in their own stadium, but it's a really good stadium with a great view and a great atmosphere on game days. So they're not looking for a super fancy state-of-the-art stadium, but I think they enjoy some of the new stuff that's going to be built in that venue.
Awesome. Well, Chad, can't thank you enough for all your time here and just all the insight that you lended. Anything that we didn't hit on that, you think that we should know about J Batt, or that pretty much cover every base here?
Sure. The J stands for Jason. Simple as that. And he just a nickname, shortened it up. It's nice and sweet, but there's no secret to what that J stands for. So there's the last little tidbit for you.
He's even efficient in his name, just like
That's
cut out all the unnecessary syllables.
Cut the letters out. We don't need them. Let's move on. We're making money here, people.
Love this. That's what I'm talking about. Well, Chad, can't thank you enough, guys. If you want more of his work, again, guys, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and we will be back right here on the show. It's Locked On Spartans, your team in green and white. Shout out to all the listeners, all the viewers. Love every single one of you. Now take care of yourselves. Go green.